Welcome to the Gaming Lodge, where we game till dawn. The Marvel Rivals Elo Hell is real. Oh my god, you...
The current score is 2-2.
Goodness gracious, people. Welcome to Grandmaster. Marvel Rivals released 3.5 months ago on December 6th. I hadn't played the beta, but dived into the game right away on release day. While I did play a good amount of Overwatch for a couple of months, I had always been more of a League of Legends player over the years, hence I was unsure about how well I would be doing in competitive. To my own surprise, I was really good, really fast. I made it to gold within the first weekend and proceeded to get into platinum just a few days later without really experiencing any struggle on the way there. To make it even better, I reached diamond within 24 hours of reaching platinum. It took me nearly 10 years to reach diamond in League of Legends, and the Marvel Rivals I did it within the first week of the game even existing. Funnily enough, that was the point where I experienced my first hot stock crisis. I just couldn't get out of diamond and even dropped down to platinum at some point. But I got better, and not only did I make it back up, I also managed to reach and stay in Grandmaster as Season 0 found its end. The start of Season 1 saw a rank reset, which dropped me back down to gold. I got quickly back into platinum, but then struggled to reach diamond. Like, I found myself stuck in platinum for 2 weeks. And I wasn't the only one. Similar to League of Legends, a rank reset really messes up the quality of the lobbies and games. Platinum was basically stuffed with Grandmaster players like me, but also players that either didn't play in Season 0 and then quickly got into Platinum, or just managed to quickly climb into that rank, which resulted in 2 different kind of hard stocks. The players that got into Platinum too fast now either get carried or proceed to drag down the entire team into losing, while the players that should be higher in Platinum struggle to win their games despite good performances, because they just happen to get the even more boosted teammates than the enemy team. The first real Marvel Rivals Elo Hell was born. Your good performance often just isn't enough to out-impact the negative performance of your teammates, which results in you losing, even though you did well. Usually it's about which team plays better, while it here ultimately came down to which team played less terrible. The quality of the games was simply bad, and you usually only saw one team stomping the other, and very rarely actual competitive back and forth games of high quality. And that is extremely similar to how it went down in League of Legends. It doesn't help that I am a strategist main, a role that is obviously important and impactful, but is ultimately fully dependent on the vanguards and duelists in front of them. You will simply have an easier time carrying and climbing playing hyper carries than with healers, that's just a fact. Either way, I continued to play consistently well, and I was able to make it out of Platinum after all on January 27th, because that is what ultimately matters the most. Consistency. There will be games that you can win no matter how good you play, so you need to play consistently well in order to then win the games you can. Once I made it back into Diamond, I played a little bit less than before, but within 10 days I made it back into Grandmaster on February 7th. And that's where I've been stuck in for over 1 month now. You see, we luckily didn't have to go for a rank reset for the Season 1.5 patch like originally announced, so I thought reaching Celestial was gonna be an easy task. But I thought wrong. Because if you thought Season 1 Platinum was Elo Hell, then let me introduce you to Season 1.5 Grandmaster. Apply everything I've said so far in this video and multiply it, and you have the Grandmaster experience. You would think that at such a high rank, you would only run into good players and that the games you were playing would all be very even. But the exact opposite is the case. I could show you clips from Grandmaster lobbies that look the exact same as Bronze. And this is once again a moment where I need to draw comparisons to League of Legends, because here you have the exact same phenomenon. You watch high rank lobbies and it looks the exact same like the ones from lower elos. Why does it happen? How does that happen? Well, as we've realized by now, it often comes down to which team is less terrible rather than actually better. I am talking about where the heals, tank and DPS players, the Spider-Man mains that go 0-10 and refuse to switch, the healers that have bad positioning and get constantly catched and blame their teammates for not protecting them. Just generally the kind of players that refuse to switch to what's best for the comp and versus the enemies simply because they want to play their favorite hero, which all ultimately comes down to ego. They're basically getting boosted by the system to a high rank, which then leads to them acting like they can do no wrong and proceed to run it down and lose the game if things aren't working out the way they want them to. They would rather lose on their pick and then blame everyone else than learn other roles and heroes to adjust when necessary and win even difficult games. Those players often tend to play a ridiculous amount of games, so many games where they are climbing by default rather than by good performance. Such players do have good games, really good ones even, but those are the ones where everything catered towards them and they weren't actually presented with a challenging game, where this time around the enemy team refuses to counter their pick and it leads to them losing this time. Both teams could suck, but one even more than the other, hence a team that also played badly is allowed to climb higher simply because they got lucky with the matchmaking. And here we are with the golden word, matchmaking. This is once again a factor in a lot of games, especially in competitive PvP games. The matchmaking in this game isn't just awful, it is downright manipulative. And a lot of people will call it simple bullshit, but I 100% believe it to be true. I've seen others go through it, and I went through it myself this week. I was on Grandmaster 1, 95 LP. One more win away from Celestial. My win rate at this point was at a healthy 57%, having won 43 games and losing 32. Nothing insane, but super solid. I was consistently playing well, won 39 of the past 20 games, and more than earned to climb to the next rank. What then happened is simply not fair. Out of the next 23 games, I proceeded to lose 18. 18 out of 23. I dropped all the way down from 1 win away from Celestial to 38 OP in Grandmaster 3. What happened? Did my consistency suddenly drop and I proceeded to play much worse? No, not really. What happened is that the moment I was this close to ranking up, they proceeded to match me with a lot of the players we've talked about earlier. The players that the matchmaking system knows are usually the ones deciding the game either by playing well or dragging down their entire team. I know this sounds like me just being salty and wanting to point fingers, so let's analyze my past 23 games to see what happens. Game 1, the game to Celestial. Super fast loss. We did horrible on a tank versus 3 healers. My teammates kept swapping their heroes to no success, while I was unable to do much as a healer despite a good performance. If you swap me with the enemy cloak and dagger, the result would have been the exact same. Game 2, an over 20 minute long clown fiesta that saw my teammates die 92 times. A close game for once, where I healed super well, but can't do much when the team dies that many times, especially with a super strong Hella on the enemy team. Game 3 was actually a win, where I played as a healer on defense and then switched to DPS for attack. Here I absolutely had the much better team on my side. Game 4 was a massive DPS gap. I played super well on healer, but basically everybody else on my team was gapped. You swap me with the NPC team, and the result would be the same. Game 5 was a super fast victory. Everybody on my team played well and we were just better. Game 6 was a massive tank and DPS gap. The team got completely owned by a double tank duo with 2 much better DPS players behind them. Nothing I can do here, you could once more swap me and the enemy C&D and the result would be the same. Game 7 was a close game that I did not deserve to lose. I had the most heals and assists in the game, played super well, but you just can't solo win the game as a healer and my 27 deaths DPS were simply outclassed. Game 8 saw me deliver a great performance with the most hits in the game, but my 23 deaths DPS were once again outclassed, and I proceeded to lose. Once again, you change me with any of the healers in the enemy team, and the result would look the same. Game 9 was not a win, where I dropped an insane Lunar Snow MVP performance, basically solo winning the game with my heals and our team up. Like I nearly healed more on my own than the enemy healers combined. This amazing game was followed by 5 losses in a row. Game 10. 60-minute long clown fiesta, another great performance, but we proceed to lose. And when you look at the scoreboard, you would genuinely struggle to understand why. Ultimately, my team failed to reach the final point in the tank and then crumbled on defense. Shame. Game 11, the first game where I can genuinely say I did not play well. The entire team was overwhelmed by Black Panther and Namor had an easy time fetching kills. I really didn't do good, but you could once again argue that switching me with any of the 2 other healers would result in the same game result. The DPS were just decisive here. Game 12 was lost mentally. I started out as a healer, did well, but then my teammate Serio proceeded to blame me for her getting catched over and over, proceeded to steal my cloak and dagger pick in overtime, forcing me to go DPS for the last stretch. We'll lose the game because one bad performing DPS just felt like ruining it. Game 13, I play DPS for once and we do super well on defense, with the enemies not even reaching the second stage. We then proceed to get completely owned on attack and lose. I didn't get a lot of kills, but dealt good damage. The main issue was our 10k damage Iron Fist refusing to go second tank. Game 14, another short storm where I did the most damage in the game, but the entire team just simply couldn't deal with the enemy Starlord that solo carried the game. What's crazy is that this Starlord is now Celestial, but he has played a total of 626 games, with literally exactly 50% win rate. It's been 24 days since Season 1.5 launched, so that means he has since played around 26 games every day. That is literally the type of player I talked about earlier, who sometimes just hammers to have an insane carry game because everything played into his favor, like him getting 2 tanks and 3 healers to protect him. Crazy stuff. Game 15 was finally another win. Super quick 5-minute stomp. The enemy cloak and dagger is literally in the position that I'm usually in. If we 2 switch places, the result would be the same, just that I got lucky with the matchmaking this time. Or did I? Because after 5 losses, I was gifted with a free win, which proceeded to get followed with a 7-game losing streak. What the fuck? Game 16. I played DPS, I did good damage, but the entire team is overrun by Salak, another hero that can solo carry games if everything plays into their favor. Super frustrating game, could have maybe gone for a different pick, but Salak just dictated everything either way, and my team and myself struggled to keep up with her. Maybe something one could call a deserved loss, but I also believe Salak just is too strong at the moment and she should be allowed to solo carry games like this. Game 17, honestly not my best performance. I wasn't terrible at anything, but definitely on my abilities. I picked Scarlet Witch because we had a Magneto who I am not that confident on, so this is a game I can definitely say I deserve to lose, or at least one I'm not complaining about losing. Unlike game 18, which I did not deserve to lose. Insane Cloak and Dagger performance, most seals plus assists, a game that on the scoreboard should be a clear victory for us, but the team just managed to lose the most important team fights, which lost me the game despite a brilliant performance. I funnily enough played game 19 with the healer from the enemy team, this time on my side. They picked Cloak and Dagger again, and sadly proceeded to just not heal me. I definitely didn't play super well, and the game was once more decided by a Star-Lord, in this case a Smurf, but I felt definitely left behind here. A Star-Lord was allowed to just catch me several times while my healers were tunnel visioning onto our double tank front line. As you can tell by now, I'm not that insane as DPS and more comfortable on healer, but I would have lost again that Star-Lord either way. Game 20 was ridiculous. I played DPS again, yet super well, 28-3 on Iron Man, high damage output, solid amount of kills, but the team just simply died too often. 34 deaths across my fellow DPS and healers. I did all I could, but it just wasn't enough. Game 21 was another super quick stomp. I did good damage, but my entire team was overrun by the enemy Black Panther and Hela. Obviously it wasn't performing that insane, but it's clear that my entire team was just gapped here as well. From looking at the profiles, both Panther and Hela are Smurfs, so yeah. Game 22 was the cherry on top of the Elo Hell cake. 24-minute long torture. Insane armor performance with 17 kills and 58,000 damage, but it just wasn't enough. Seriously, when a game was that long, it's hard to tell what exactly was the issue. I definitely wasn't it though. I felt genuinely so frustrated after that loss because I just didn't know what else I had to do. Well, game 23 finally saw me win another round. Super good Cloak and Dagger performance, by far more seals and assists, despite having teammates that died way too much. A well-earned victory. So, from one win away from Celestial down to the deepest pits of Elo Hell. What can we observe from this match history? Slowly looking at myself on my 18 losses, there were only 2 games where I felt like I genuinely didn't perform well and deserved to lose, even if I wasn't the only one not playing well on my team. A few other times I was forced to play DPS against Smurfs, and as a healer main, I don't really want to blame myself for losing against such players. I honestly just shouldn't be playing against them in the first place. Beyond those like 2-4 games, I played consistently well and lost at least 5 to 6 games that were stomps, where you could swap me with into the enemy team and the result would be the same, with the remaining games being close losses that I really can't take the blame for either. It's clear that I just don't deliver as much on DPS as I do on healer, though we also saw that even super good healer performances aren't enough to carry games, which as we mentioned is just the fate of the role. DPS is the role that often truly decides the outcome of a match, even if correct team picking and countering enemy picks also play their vital role. One could also talk about how barely I played my main hero. Even though my Cloak and Dagger performances are consistently great, my best results are with Rocket, where I can flex 21 wins in 33 games with so far in Season 1.5. So maybe I should simply force that hero, rather than try to adjust for what's best for the combo after all. It's crazy how even in Season 1 already, I played well with C&D like every game, yet just somehow proceed to lose with them most of the time. Like I'm sitting on 20 wins to 33 losses across all seasons with the 0, which makes no sense as those stats do not resemble my performance. To get back to the point, I lost a lot of games because I had to play DPS rather than healer, even though I did well in most of those games. Generally, I played consistently well across those 23 games with just a handful of mediocre performances where I'm fine with losing. So why do I proceed to lose most of the other games despite consistently good performances? Well, because my team was often just worse. And that's because the matchmaking wants it that way. So many of the games I've showed you were lost because of my teammates, sometimes because they were simply not as good as the enemies, or because they were genuinely terrible. And that is where matchmaking comes into play. The system can tell what kind of players fall into this sometimes good, often shit category, or in other words, they can tell who usually performs good and bad. So the moment they saw me getting close to ranking up, they decided to match me with a lot of those flagged players that will either deliver and match my good performance, or break down completely and lose me the game. Especially when in the meantime, the enemy team gets matched with statistically better players, like we saw with a lot of Smurfs. And there are so many games where you could swap me with an enemy healer and the result would be the same, because the rest of the teams and lobbies are the ones that usually decide the outcome of the match. Of course the system can tell who is boosted by playing a lot of games. Of course the system can tell who is a Smurf. Of course the system will match lobbies in a way where it can result in close games, but also favor one team more than the other. Like in my case, favoring the enemies because they see I'm close to climbing up. But why would they do it? For what reason? Well, it's really simple. They just want you to play more. Of course, it makes sense for them to match you into lobbies that you very likely won't win, because it means you will have to play more games in order to climb. It's a super simple strategy in order to have you spend more time playing the game, and the logic behind it is that the more you play the game, the higher the chances that you might buy some cosmetics as well. It's literally that simple. And funnily enough, I'm recording and editing this into the video days after recording the initial script. There's actually a specific phrase for it that even one of my enemies used to describe a game I lost, the so-called EOMM. Engagement Optimized Matchmaking. It's the same with League of Legends, another free-to-play game that is all about making money with cosmetics. They know that the faster you climb, the faster you may stop playing the game, or at least play it less, because you reach your rank goal. And guess what? If I was Celestial right now, I would be taking a break to Season 2. The matchmaking is manipulated in a way to keep players playing more and prevent you from climbing super fast, unless you are a DPS Smurf or something. And that is also why you will never see Smurfs getting blocked like they should be. Because Smurfs make it a whole lot easier to shift their favor towards one team in the lobby. Just like super boosted players that should be banned for griefing often do not get punished, because they can also be used to decide games just in a negative manner. Like, you know how many people purposely run it down in League of Legends yet never get banned? Well, maybe you understand why now. It's super frustrating and annoying because it does eliminate a lot of fun and enjoyment with the game. I would say that me playing solo is certainly another important factor. You will obviously have it easier when you queue up with other consistently good players to avoid a lot of potential bad teammates. What's just sad about all this is how this kind of matchmaking heavily damages the general quality and enjoyment of the game experience, especially competitive, which I personally enjoy more than quick play. Because I'm passionate about getting better and climbing. From the 23 games we've looked at, around half of them were one-sided stomps, either because of Smurfs or boosted players dragging their team down. Majority of the rest were Clown Fiesta games where both teams play badly and it results in long chaotic games, and just like 4 games were genuinely close and exciting back and forth showdowns where both teams played well. You would expect Grandmaster to be high elo, when in reality the quality of the games is often barely different to the ones in gold or below. It's an elo made out of boosted players, Smurfs and neutral players, creating a super toxic experience. All because they just want people to play the game more. And this is super similar to the Diamond and Master experience in League of Legends. You will find so many players in those elos with like 1000 games played, making it that high because they force themselves into that rank by playing the game so much. So much to the point where you play at least somewhat okay, you can make it. Match these kind of players with genuinely good players and Smurfs that are bored from their actual elo and feel like stomping lobbies, and you have the Grandmaster experience and Marvel Rivals. And I know from experience that it looks like this on Platinum and Diamond as well, but not to the extent like it does here. Elo Hell definitely also exists in lower elos, but if you're good enough and play well enough, you will make it out there. Which is also the case for Grandmaster, but just that it will take longer here than it will for you in lower elos. And I have already been told that it's apparently even worse in Celestial. Have mercy on my poor soul. Again, I love playing this game. It can be super fun, but the focus lays on the word can. This twisted matchmaking sadly creates a super toxic and frustrating experience, resulting in losses beyond your control and your performance feeling irrelevant. An experience I've known from other games, an experience I wish they didn't adapt into the game as well. At the end of the day, it is a team-based game. Of course you can win every single game despite performing well, and that's not what I'm expecting either. I do expect the matchmaking to be fairer, and not that in a way that favors profit over play experience. If I want to buy skins, I will. If anything, forcing me to stay longer in elos with bad matchmaking just makes me want to buy skins less. Again, I've played this game for over 300 hours within its first 3 months. I love it, and will continue to do so. But it's also clear to me that similarly to League of Legends, there will come a point where competitive will be the opposite of enjoyable and feel more like a core. I don't want to have to spend twice as much time necessary to climb just because the game wants to make it extra difficult with bad matchmaking. That won't see me playing the game more, but will achieve the opposite. I will start playing the game less because the experience is not fun and enjoyable. The honeymoon phase has been over for a while now, and as fun as this game is, it is ultimately just another League of Legends. Another competitive multiplayer game with a lot of flaws to it that you just have to accept and deal with, which is often just not easy. The Elo Hell is real, and I believe it doesn't have to be. I don't know what they can do to fix this, but I really hope they will, because I really want to see myself playing this game for a very long time to come. What do you think? Do you agree with my points? Do you believe that Elo Hell exists, and if so because of the matchmaking? Tell me your experiences down below. If you want to support me and the channel, then please subscribe, it would help me a lot. Look forward to more Marvel Rivals content and a whole lot else to come in the upcoming time, and I'll see you back soon at the gaming lodge.